Hey, I'm Ken Reid. Time to talk a little hockey card history. This week, we're striking a pose. I'm going to talk about and show you my 10 favorite hockey cards featuring a pose. Now, back in the day, pretty much every hockey card was done with a pose in the mid-1970s. OPG and Top started incorporating action shots, but until then, the old standard hockey pose, it was standard on most hockey cards. But over the years, since the mid-70s, there have been more poses. Some of them quite epic. Some of them are going to make this countdown, starting with number 10, 92-93, Upper Deck, Young Guns checklist. Look at that card. Wow. Darius Kasparaitis, Vladimir Malakhov. For no reason whatsoever, they're in sunglasses on this checklist card. Now, they didn't need a reason because this card was released during the boom era. And during the boom era of hockey cards, I'm talking, let's say 90 to 1993, maybe even 89 to 93, things didn't have to make sense. Guys showed up on hockey cards in various forms. More on that as we continue. That is number 9. That's number 10, actually. That's how you strike a pose. This is number 9. And baby, this is how you strike a pose. 77, 78, OPG, WHA. This is going to make my producer's day. It's going to make my director's day. It's going to make Dan Murphy's day in Vancouver. A young John Garrett of the Minnesota Fighting Saints. Oh, I stand corrected. Now with Birmingham Bulls. Look at Cheech. The strange thing is, aside from the extra cheveux on the side, John Garrett pretty much looks the same. He still has the stash. He hasn't wrinkled up all that much. I'm curious what his diet was like back then. But look at those epic logos on the Minnesota Fighting Saints and the Birmingham Bulls. Man, just to read you a bit off the back of the card, rated as one of the most outstanding goalies in pro hockey. John has registered 10 shutouts in 4 WHA seasons. He began his pro career with Kansas City of the CHL in 71-72. Man, so many great poses in the 70s. I mean, you could basically just dig into a bucket and dig out a ton of cards like this. But I wanted to get Cheech in there, right? You have to be nice to your friends. Looking good, Johnny Garrett. Okay, number 8. I mentioned during the boom, pretty much anything would go on a hockey card. Case in point, Upper Deck Profiles cards from, I believe it was 92, 93. Jaromir Jagr. Had to get Jagr in there with his mullet posing in front of his logo. So on the Profiles cards, they'd ask guys various questions. So young number 68 is asked on the back of this card, who is your toughest opponent? Every player is tough. That's the answer. What advice would you like to give to kids growing up? Have fun. Do you have any superstitions? Too many. What's your most memorable moment in hockey? Winning his first Stanley Cup. Of course, he won that during his rookie season. But Jags looking good in the blue jeans, the tube socks, and the Upper Deck jacket. That's number 8. Moving on to number 7. Now, I want to get some classic cards in here because, like I said, the pose was standard. 62-63 Parkhurst. That is Jacques Plante. Is that not a thing of beauty? I love this set. I love that puck in the background. Jacques Plante, as you know, first goalie to wear a mask. Just an epic look. The old brown gear, the old straight blade stick, the beautiful classic red, white, and blue of the Montreal Canadiens. Just a beautiful hockey card, that Jacques Plante 62-63 Parkhurst. And if you're wondering, yes, I keep it in a protective sleeve. But if I go like that, it'll glare too much on camera. So I took it out for these purposes. Okay. Great pose. 73, 74, OPG. Card number 61. This man was one of the biggest figures in the NHL in his day, an imposing figure. He went on to become a coach in, Philadelphia, Vancouver, Toronto. The mighty Quinn, Pat Quinn. Don't you just love that pose? Kind of sticking the stick out, letting you know who's boss. Big Pat Quinn had some classic NHL moments. That hit on Bobby Orr, a scrap with Bobby Orr. Even on the back of the card, Quinn's size, it comes into play. Pat is one of the biggest players in the NHL, listed at 6'3", 215. And I just love this card because it captures the size of Pat Quinn and how big and intimidating a factor he must have been during his playing days. Okay, another pose I love. I used to call this card and cards that look like it the disco background, because a lot of cards in the 79-80 set came out and they had that blue background. That's Terry Ruskowski, card number 141 in the set. Now, Ruskowski explained to me once upon a time what that background was. I thought it was a curtain that O-Pee-Chee used to put up behind the guys. This picture was actually taken in Houston during Ruskowski's WHA days with the Arrows. And that is just a blue wall that's behind him. It's a blue wall outside of the Arrows dressing room. And it just so happened whenever the reflection would hit it of the camera that it would light up, kind of artsy almost. Morris Lukowich, same thing on his 79-80 O-Pee-Chee. So it's a blue wall, but I love it. It shows up on a lot of 79-80 O-Pee-Chees. It's a great look. I called it the disco wall, or the disco curtain. Turns out it's just a wall. Okay. This is an absolute classic hockey card. It's a classic pose. I'm pretty sure this picture, well, was maybe even the inspiration for Gordie Howe when he showed up on The Simpsons that time in the fake letters from Bart to his teacher. But man, this card, it's just about perfect. We're talking 63, 64 Parkers, Gordie Howe. That's a work of art. American flag in the background, the winged wheel, Gordie looking young, looking huge. Just, man, what an awesome hockey player. I'm so happy to have this card in my collection. It's just a beautiful pose from just a fantastic person. I was lucky when I was a kid. I went to a hockey school. Gordie Howe was the guest instructor. He was something else. I remember him doing a give and go. He passed with his right and then shot with his left on the same play. At this point in Gordie's career, he had 540 goals, 672 assists for 1,212 points. What a player, Gordie Howe. And that is just a beautiful hockey card. If you ever get a chance to pick it up, do so. Parker's put out some beauties back in the day, but that has to be my all-time favorite. One of my favorite, at least, Parker's hockey cards. It's just a perfect picture of number 9. Okay, so my top 3 strike oppose cards, maybe they're not perfect pictures. I'm going to start with this one. This is the classic. The 71-72 Phil Esposito. Upon closer inspection, Phil is wearing slacks. Phil is not wearing hockey pants. Phil told me the story behind this card in my book, Hockey Card Stories. He said it was pretty simple. He came off the ice. They chucked a sweater at him and a pair of gloves and a stick, and they said, pose for a hockey card. They didn't chuck any hockey pants at him. So that's why he has his slacks on in the bottom of this card. Ken Hodge, the same slack effect. In fact, Phil wore slacks on a hockey card for 2 seasons in a row, 70-71, and then this 71-72, I assume from the same photo shoot. But Phil Esposito, slacks on a hockey card, one of the greatest scorers, players of all time, hero of the 72 series, and he's in slacks on a hockey card. I absolutely love it. Okay, I know that you guys know that this card is on its way, that it had to show up in my countdown of best poses on a hockey card. I didn't want to disappoint you, so of course it's in here from the Upper Deck series of 91-92 Bloodlines. Pavel and Valerie Bure on a beach in rollerblades. As I mentioned, during the boom era, a lot of things on hockey cards didn't make sense. They didn't have to. The Russian Rocket was one of the hottest players on ice in this era, so any excuse to get him an extra hockey card, you go for it. Any excuse to fit in his brother, who was a top prospect at the time, you go for it. So we have both of the Bure brothers on the same hockey card, just out rollerblading on the beach. I love it. The Linden brothers were on one, on a photo covered, captured in Vancouver. There was Doug Waite, Stephen Rice, and Tony Amonte. Frolic in the Ocean on a card for the New York Rangers back in the day. So just a beauty card, Val and Pavel Bure. Okay, number 1, strike oppose card. You're waiting for it. It's not from the National Hockey League. However, the National Hockey League had a role to play in this card. We're talking Cam Russell, 1989 Pro Cards with the Indianapolis Ice. Cam's got the pack nose. He's got the eyes about to be blackened. He's got the 17-pound coho looking to knock down anyone who comes near him. So why does Cam Russell look like this on a hockey card? It's simple. He went up and down between Chicago and Indianapolis this season. The night before this card was taken, he got filled in Chicago, sent back down to the farm, shows up for practice. It's hockey card day. So the now current general manager of the Halifax Mooseheads is thinking, what do I do? My nose is packed. I'm kind of beat up from last night. Cam Russell, the good guy he is, the good Maritimer he is. We Maritimers, we like to think we like, you know, we have that self-deprecating sense of humor. We like to make fun of ourselves. For example, the bone, a little flap in my head starting to show up. Haven't had the Botox in a while. The hair's getting a little long. The sideburns are getting a little fluffy. So I got to go with it. Cam showed up with a broken nose. He's got to go with it. You make the most of it. You look like a bad dude on your hockey card. Cam strikes a pose. Cam Russell, the #1 pose in my top poses on a hockey card countdown. If you like that video, wicked good. Make sure you click the button below and subscribe to the Sportsnet YouTube channel for video after video of endless awesomeness.